Asia's microcosm, where the eighth wonder of the world is hidden, built by a usurper and paternal murderer. Sri Lanka holds more crazy secrets than you imagine. An island where ancient civilizations intersect, where the nine-arch bridge defies modern engineering. And where you can only see wild elephants roaming surfer beaches. Join me on a journey through time, and you'll understand why this small island seems so impossible. To understand Sri Lanka's past, we must begin where its people return to in their hearts, the peaceful heart of the ancient north of the island. A unique world of myths, empires, and vibrant traditions. In this land, history is not distant. It flows through the way communities venerate the shrines they dedicate to sacred trees, through customs repeated for more than 2 millennia. A 2,500-year-old civilization still resonates through forgotten reservoirs, ceremonial avenues, and colossal brick monuments. And behind them are the people who continue to give them meaning. Monks in saffron robes sweeping the temple courtyards before dawn. Families offering lotus flowers on each full moon night. Farmers still relying on irrigation canals dug by their ancestors, and craftsmen restoring ancient stupas with techniques unchanged for centuries. This is Anuradhapura, the birthplace of the Sinhala kingdoms and the spiritual center of the island for more than a millennium. Before exploring the legends and rulers of this place, one must first notice its immense scale. Soaring above the treetops, the Jetavanaramaya Stupa was once one of the tallest brick structures on Earth, a feat so great that modern engineers still debate how its 93 million bricks were laid without collapsing under their own weight. Not far away, an ancient tree continues to defy time. Sri Mahabodhi, planted over 2,300 years ago, is not only the oldest recorded sacred tree in the world. It is a living bridge to the moment the Buddha attained enlightenment. Generations have guarded it from kings to ordinary villagers, making it one of the most carefully protected trees on Earth. Journey eastward, where the plains begin to unfold and the land transforms in a different rhythm. Polonnaruwa lies here, Sri Lanka's second great capital. As the old kingdom crumbled and the jungle began to engulf the temples, a new vision emerged. And it was here that Parakramabahu built an empire, not just with power, but with intellect and a strange obsession with perfection. Deep within the citadel, the first thing that astonishes is not the palace, but the 8 black stone pillars standing in absolute silence. They are so exquisitely carved that they are perplexing. No records describe their true purpose. Some scholars suggest they are the remnants of a royal ceremony, deliberately erased from history, as if there was something here that the court never wanted to leave unsaid. Not far away, the council hall looms large, like the stage of a kingdom once ruled by both intellect and fear. At the top of the steps, 2 stone lions roar at passers-by, reminding us that this was once the center of power, where life or death decisions were made and conspiracies began. But the heart of Polonnaruwa lies in Vatadaj, a perfectly round stupa so stunning it's breathtaking. 4 Buddha statues face the 4 cardinal directions. The stone railings twist gently like the wheel of time, and the moonstones carved at the foot of the steps recount the entire philosophy of the cycle of life. What makes it even more mysterious is the hypothesis many historians avoid mentioning. Vatadaj may have once housed the tooth relic before it was moved to Kandy. Today, Polonnaruwa stands there as a city that never truly died, a place where power, religion, and secrecy intertwine. Sigiriya, a colossal pillar of rock 200 meters high above the jungle, as if lifted from another world. Its appearance is serene, yet its origins stem from fear, ambition, and become one of the most tragic stories in Sri Lankan royal history. King Kashyapa, remembered not for the empire he built, but for the crimes that usurped his throne. According to chronicles, Kashyapa was not the rightful heir. Driven by a thirst for power, he usurped the throne by murdering his father, imprisoning him, and seizing the kingdom that rightfully belonged to his half-brother, Moggallana. News of this act spread quickly, and with it came a gripping fear. Moggallana, forced into exile, would one day return to seek justice. Kashyapa chose the towering rock of Sigiriya as the site for a fortress impregnable by any army. On the summit, he built a royal palace. Along the foothills, he carved out pleasure gardens, reservoirs, and a hidden defensive labyrinth beneath the beauty. The rock walls preserve frescoes of Sigiriya maidens, a testament to an art that has endured for centuries, despite the ravages of the weather. Even the entrance became a symbol of menace, a massive lion-shaped gate, its claws still guarding the mountain's ascent to this day. However, despite the grandeur of the architecture, the king could not escape the shadow of the past. In 495, Moggallana returned with an army and began fighting. In a fateful moment, Kashyapa was left behind. Instead of surrendering, he brandished his sword and committed suicide on the battlefield, ending a dynasty built on glory and betrayal. Sigiriya endures. For centuries, archaeologists have been searching for answers about the remains of this once magnificent palace. Another giant rises from the jungle, quieter, rougher, and far less ornate. Hidirangala. Centuries ago, this rock was a Buddhist monastery, home to monks living in sheltered caves naturally carved into the rock. When Kashyapa chose Sigiriya as his fortress, he relocated the monastic community there, an act that connects the two rocks into a single historical thread. Today, the monastery is nothing but ruins, stained bricks, half-buried steps, and the serene image of a reclining Buddha beneath the vast, open sky. Its appearance is not one of ruin, but rather of memories gently preserved by the stillness of the mountain. South of the ancient capitals, this land rises as a solitary golden hill. At its summit lies one of Sri Lanka's most incredible sanctuaries, the Dambulla Cave Temple, a complex of 5 interconnected caves housing over 150 Buddha statues, each carved, painted, or restored over the centuries. Step inside, and you're in a different world. Ceilings covered in swirling murals, layered walls telling stories, and rows of silent statues, watching the darkness illuminated only by flickering lights. But the beauty of Dambulla is only half the story. Hidden within these caves lies one of the most dramatic periods in Sri Lankan royal history. Over 2,000 years ago, King Valagamba, driven from his throne by invaders, sought refuge here. For 14 years, he lived in exile, hiding in these very chambers while his kingdom changed hands. When Valagamba finally regained the throne, he transformed the caves that had saved his life into a sacred temple, covering the walls with colossal murals as a tribute. Some murals span the entire ceiling like cosmic maps. Others depict battles, miracles, and images said to endure forever in stone and color. During the dry season, when the reservoirs dry up and the grasslands turn a golden yellow, Minaria transforms into the stage for one of Earth's most spectacular natural phenomena. Locals call it the Gathering, the world's largest annual gathering of wild Asian elephants. Hundreds of elephants emerge from the surrounding forests, moving in family groups across the plains. Mother elephants lead their calves, young male elephants challenge each other, and old elephants stand silently and solemnly awaiting the cool night. The sheer number of elephants is overwhelming. Dozens, then hundreds, until the horizon is completely enveloped in vibrant life. What fascinates biologists and often surprises visitors is the complex social dance that unfolds before their eyes. Elephants greet each other after months of separation, forming a temporary alliance and communicating with low-frequency growls that resonate through the earth. A moment of stepping into a world governed by ancient instincts and shared memories. Rising abruptly from the plain, Yapahua appears as a stone fortress suspended between heaven and earth. Its steep staircase, the most impressive architectural feature in Sri Lanka, leads spectacularly to the summit. Its walls are guarded by carved lions, musicians, and mythical creatures in motion. Viewed from below, the path up the mountain is awe-inspiring, as if the very rock itself is challenging anyone who dares approach its peak. However, the beauty of Yapahua is linked to one of the kingdom's most fragile moments. In the 13th century, this fortress briefly served as the capital of Sri Lanka, chosen for its sturdy cliffs and sweeping views of the plains. More importantly, it became the temporary resting place of the island's most sacred treasure, the tooth relic, a symbol of royal legitimacy. Nestled among mist-shrouded hills, Kandy was the last stronghold of Sri Lankan royalty. The last capital to resist the waves of Western influence that reshaped much of the island. While coastal cities fell one after another to the Portuguese, the Dutch, and then the British, Kandy maintained its firm independence for centuries, protected by its rugged terrain, strategic alliances, and an unwavering commitment to tradition. To this day, the city retains an atmosphere unlike any other in Sri Lanka. Its streets wind around an artificial lake built by the last king of the Kandyan people, its rhythm shaped by temples, processions, and a spiritual culture that predates even colonial borders. Kandyan is more than just a city. It is a statement of cultural resilience, proof that identity can endure even when surrounded on all sides. Located in the heart of Kandy, Sri Dalada Maligawa, the Temple of the Tooth Relic, is one of the most revered religious sites in the Buddhist world. Behind its carved doors and golden boxes lies a single sacred object, a tooth relic believed to belong to the Buddha. For centuries, whoever possessed the tooth relic was recognized as the legitimate ruler of Sri Lanka. This belief shaped the kingdom's history. Capitals were built, fortified, and even abandoned depending on where the relic was located. Armies rose up to defend it, invaders crossed the ocean to seize it. The presence of the relic transformed Kandy into a sacred capital, all revolving around the responsibility of protecting this unique relic. Inside the temple, Layers of gold, ivory, and lacquer surround the inner sanctuary. Rituals are performed 3 times a day, accompanied by the resounding beat of traditional drums echoing throughout the halls. During the annual Esala Perahera festival, the symbolic coffin of the relic is carried by a majestic elephant through the city in a procession that blends devotion, art, and long-standing royal tradition. Beside the Temple of the Tooth lies Lake Kandy, a tranquil mirror concealing stories beneath its surface for thousands of centuries. Built in the early 19th century by the last Kandian king, the lake is said to have beautified the royal capital, but deep within lies a more elusive history. In the center of the lake is a small island, Diatilaka Mandapaya. From afar, it looks like a simple pavilion surrounded by water. Local legends, however, offer it even more intriguing stories. Some speculate that it was once part of the king's private palace, perhaps a secluded bathhouse or a resting place for the royal harem. Others speak of underwater tunnels that once connected the island to the palace grounds, allowing the king to move undetected beneath the lake's surface. No records confirm these stories, and it is this uncertainty that makes Diatilaka Mandapaya so fascinating and an unnamed mystery. The 26-meter-tall white Buddha, seated in a serene meditative state, is visible from almost every corner of the city. It symbolizes peace, compassion, and protection, but the hill on which it sits tells a very different story. Before the statue was built, the hill was known as Bahirawakanda, the Hill of the Fearsome. Locals believe this is the dwelling place of powerful, restless, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous spirits. People avoid the place after dark, as if acknowledging it directly could bring bad luck. The presence of Buddha is seen as a spiritual revival, transforming a gloomy landscape into a place of peace, fear into faith, and darkness into light. A short journey from Kandy will lead to one of Sri Lanka's most surreal landmarks, Ambuluwawa Tower. Rising from a hillside surrounded by misty forests, the narrow white spiral tower reaches towards the sky, creating the strange impression of floating amidst the clouds. An open staircase, becoming thinner and thinner as it ascends, until it is just a single thread wrapped around the top of the tower. But Ambuluwawa is more than just an architectural wonder. The tower is located within Sri Lanka's first multi-religious sanctuary, where symbols of Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity are all situated on a single hill. Climbing the tower is an experience unlike any other. Each bend reveals broader horizons, distant tea plantations, mountains fading into the mist, and on clear days, even the faint outline of the Indian Ocean. The climb to the summit is both thrilling and unsettling, yet strangely peaceful. Nuwara Eliya is located in the central highlands of Sri Lanka, a town with a cool climate, soft light, and everything seems to move to a different pace of life. Dubbed Little England, this place carries the legacy of the British, who once used this land as a refuge from the tropical heat. Red brick post offices, manicured lawns, rose gardens and houses still clustered on the hills, reminders of a colonial past woven into a landscape that is shaped by tea fields and mist. The town is surrounded by endless tea plantations, carefully tended by generations of Tamil workers who arrived in the 19th century. Their quiet routines, picking tea leaves, sorting, carrying woven baskets, create the heartbeat of a land built on ritual and repetition. The mountains surrounding Haputale offer sweeping views of valleys stretching down to distant plains, but the real story of the land lies in the foliage that blankets the hillsides. Today, Sri Lanka is one of the world's largest tea producers, but that was never the original plan. By the mid-19th century, the island's economy was almost entirely dependent on coffee. The hillsides from Kandy to Haputale were covered with plantations, and Ceylon coffee became famous throughout Europe. Then a microscopic invader appeared, a fungal disease called Himalaya vastatrix, or coffee rust. Within 2 decades, it had wiped out almost all the coffee plantations on the island. Fields were barren, fortunes collapsed, an entire industry vanished overnight. What followed was one of the most dramatic agricultural changes in history. Growers introduced Camellia sinensis, the tea plant, and discovered that Sri Lanka's altitude and climate were perfect for it. Haputale became a laboratory of reinvention. New factories sprang up, railways were extended, and Tamil laborers were brought in from India to tend the new plantations. The neatly terraced tea hills tell a story not of tradition, but of adaptation, how a nation rebuilt its economic lifeblood. One leaf, one basket of tea. In the Central Highlands, rivers flow deep into the rock and out into the open, forming waterfalls that have shaped local folklore for centuries. Ramboda Falls, with its cascading cascades, has long been associated with tales of hidden treasures and guardian spirits that dwell in the surrounding forest. Tales tell of the waterfall's distinctive sound, a rhythmic echo that seems to change with the seasons, as if answering the call of the mountains. Further west, Laksapana Falls has a different reverence. According to tradition, it was near this site that the Buddha stopped during one of his legendary pilgrimages through the island. The surrounding caves and rocks are shrouded in stories passed down through the generations. Monks meditating in solitude, villagers witnessing strange lights, travelers hearing chants carried by the wind. They are a hallmark of Sri Lanka's relationship with nature and faith. Tucked between towering mountains and sprawling plantations, Ella has become the unofficial capital of the Sri Lankan backpacking circuit, a pleasant mountain town where the climate is mild and the pace of life slows. The hills here are fertile. The soil laid down by centuries of volcanic rock produces some of the finest tea on the island. For farmers, it's a blessing. For visitors, it's a seemingly endless landscape. But the soul of the place lies high above all, Ella Rock. It's not the highest peak, nor the easiest to hike, but it's where visitors come to understand why this land has held so dear to the hearts of people for so long. The ascent to Ella Rock begins as a gentle stroll along the railway, but quickly turns into a climb between bamboo bushes, sharp rocks, and wet slopes. Locals believe Ella Rock is a meeting point for many energy currents. Some say ancient tribes used it as a spot to observe crops. Others believe that Taoist hermits once lived nearby, seeking absolute silence. A short walk from the center of Ella is Sri Lanka's most famous colonial architectural marvel, the Nine-Arch Viaduct. Completed in 1921, this viaduct gracefully stretches across a tree-covered gorge, its 9 brick arches creating a rhythmic curve and shadow, attracting photographers and railway enthusiasts from around the world. What truly makes the bridge impressive is its construction. When World War I broke out, the British Empire diverted steel to serve the war effort, leaving Sri Lankan builders without steel for the project. Instead of abandoning the plan, local engineers and craftsmen created a structure entirely of brick, stone, and cement without any reinforcing steel. For a century, trains have run across this bridge daily, their weight supported entirely by the precision of the bridge's spans. Rain, sun, monsoon winds, and time have tested it, but the viaduct has endured, an incredible triumph of resourcefulness in a global crisis. Near Ella, the roaring sound of water heralds the arrival of Ravana Falls, one of the island's most majestic waterfalls. The water cascades down the cliffs in tiers, splashing white foam onto the surrounding vegetation and cooling the air even in the hot season. But the waterfall's significance extends far beyond its natural beauty. In the ancient epic Ramayana, this area was the domain of Ravana, the mighty king of Lanka. According to the epic, it was near this waterfall that Rama hid Sita, his wife, after abducting her, the beginning of one of the most enduring stories in South Asian mythology. The caves near the waterfall remain associated with this legend. Generations of locals have passed down stories of secret chambers, secret passageways, and echoes that sound like voices reciting verses from ancient epics. Located on the southeastern edge of Sri Lanka, where the scrubland meets the Indian Ocean, Yala National Park is a landscape that belongs first and foremost to predators. In Sri Lanka's ecological map, Yala boasts a number that astonishes scientists: the highest density of wild leopards on the planet. Nowhere else do these mysterious big cats appear naturally with a frequency that almost defies all understanding of their hunting behavior. The Sri Lankan leopard, larger and bolder than most of its relatives, doesn't live like a phantom hiding in the shadows. In Yala, it walks as if surveying its own territory. You might spot it sprawled on a low canopy, its fur speckled with vibrant yellow in the early morning sun, or see its shadow glide across the open ground, so light that not even dust rises. Its confidence is almost breathtaking. This is not a rare sight, but the true ruler of Yala. In contrast to the leopard's quiet demeanor, freshwater crocodiles dominate the lowlands, where mud, water, and darkness merge. They bask in the sun at the edge of the lake, so motionless that at first glance, visitors often mistake them for mere rocks. But with just a slight movement, a gentle puff of steam from their noses, the picture changes. These are the perfect ambushes, waiting for the slightest mistake from any creature that dares to approach. Located on the east coast of Sri Lanka, where lagoons meet mangroves and sand dunes guard the sea, Kumara National Park appears as a sanctuary not for big cats, but for wings. During migration season, the park becomes a living map of global flyways. Thousands of birds flock from across Central Asia, Europe, and the Himalayas, choosing the Kumara wetlands as their ideal resting place. Flamingos dye the water pink. Pelicans glide in formation over the lagoons, and zebra storks stand motionless like sentinels, their reflections shimmering in the shallows. What's shocking is not just the number of birds that congregate here, but how perfectly suited the place is to their needs. The mudflats, brackish pools, reeds and mangroves create a mosaic of habitats compressed into a relatively small area. It's as if the landscape has been shaped over millennia for migration, feeding, and nesting, all without the help of human hands. Along the remote east coast of Sri Lanka, Arugam Bay curves like a crescent into the Indian Ocean, rolling waves into perfect loops that surfers from all over the world come to experience once in a lifetime. At dawn, the bay resembles a beautiful ink painting. Long, flat waves crash in with near-perfect uniformity. The air is filled with the sound of surfboards tearing through the water and the gentle lapping of waves against the warm sand. Just inland, the lagoons and lakes are part of a larger ecosystem, connecting to the nearby Kumana National Park. Elephant Point stands out above all. Here, the boundary between wilderness and ocean dissolves into something surreal. The forest stretches all the way to the water's edge, creating a narrow corridor where two worlds meet. In the late afternoon, when the heat has abated, wild elephants sometimes emerge, silently stepping out from the forest edge. Their huge silhouettes move calmly and solemnly, stopping by a freshwater pool just meters from the ocean. In that moment, modern life and ancient instincts coexist, as if the island itself is reminding visitors that nature still sets the rules here. Further south, the ocean stretches out and darkens near Marissa, a coastal town renowned for its breathtaking beauty that makes anyone stop here. Marissa opens up like a crescent-shaped cove, where fine golden sand hugs clear turquoise water. Coconut trees lean out into the sea, creating a tranquil scene like a slow tropical breath. The waves here are not fierce, but gently caress the sand, leaving bright ripples as if painted by sunlight. Suddenly, a large, curved mass the size of a truck rises from the water, moving with a stillness that belies its size. Blue whales, the largest animals ever known, move through these waters following ancient migration routes that predate human history. For local fishermen, whales are like guardians. They believe that the ocean reveals its temperament through the behavior of these giant creatures. Calm whales signify calm waters. Aggressive whales, they argue, are warnings. Coconut Hill, a small headland jutting into the sea, is covered with clusters of closely spaced coconuts. It has become an icon of Sri Lankan travel photography, but for the people of Marissa, it has a quieter meaning. Before sunrise, fishermen place small offerings under the palms, coconuts, flowers, or a handful of rice, to Varuna, the god of the sea. The ritual is simple, asking for safe tides, favorable winds, and a catch of fish to pay homage to the ocean without angering it. A short walk away, Parrot Rock guards the coast like a solitary outpost. Tourists climb it for the view, but locals know its temperament better. When storms come, waves crash against the foot of the hill so violently they can crack the rocks. In those days, the rock became a warning tower. The sea was rough, and fishermen had to stick to the shore. Ritigala Bay is located on the south coast, a place that has been neglected for decades despite being just a short distance from the major towns. It is shaped like a perfect horseshoe, a natural cove protected from the force of the sea. The calm coastal bay attracts beginners trying out stand-up paddleboarding for the first time, while the deeper central area creates strong, choppy waves that challenge even veterans. Locals liken the bay to a living creature. Some say its shape traps sound, allowing them to hear storms forming beyond the horizon. Others claim the water remains unusually warm in certain months, as if a hidden stream were flowing beneath the sand. Approaching Gala Fort feels less like stepping into ruins and more like entering a forgotten chapter in the world. Built by the Portuguese, rebuilt by the Dutch, and completed by the British, the fort forms a star-shaped citadel overlooking the Indian Ocean. Inside its walls, narrow streets meander in a lattice pattern, a rarity in South Asia. Colonial villas, old warehouses, stone churches, spice houses, and tree-lined squares create a patchwork of European architecture piled atop a tropical island. The horror of Gala Fort's resilience came in 2004, when a massive tsunami devastated its southern coast. The tsunami submerged towns, markets, and coastlines, but the fort absorbed the impact and protected almost all life within. For many Sri Lankans, it is a legacy, a fort built by empires, enduring long after those empires vanished. Off the coast of Weligama, a solitary island rises from the water, so small you could circle it in minutes, yet vast enough to hold a legend. This is Taprobane Island, once owned by a French count who sought a place where luxury and isolation could coexist without apologizing. The island's name is reminiscent of the oldest Greek word used to describe Sri Lanka, Taprobane, a land so exotic that classical writers described it as nestled between paradise and myth. Today, Taprobane remains one of the few private islands in the Indian Ocean open to visitors, offering a strangely unspoiled feel, a place where the ocean seems louder than the passers-by. The story of Sri Lanka ends and begins again in Colombo, a city shaped by colonial ambition and the uncertainty of modern times. Its skyline is a blend of contrasts: glass towers reflecting centuries-old temples, bustling markets alongside financial districts, the faint scent of incense on the highways. Standing above all is the Lotus Tower, the tallest structure in South Asia. Its design is iconic, a lotus flower blooming in the murky waters, a metaphor deeply rooted in Sri Lankan culture. Built during years of political instability and financial crisis, the tower has become a mirror reflecting the nation, admired by some, criticized by others, but ultimately impossible to ignore. The tower's ascent into the sky carries a story familiar to Sri Lanka itself: beauty rising from adversity. The country declared bankruptcy, endured shortages, protests, and instability, yet Colombo, like the lotus flower, continued to rise higher, not outward. From the tower's observation deck, the city stretches out to sea, revealing layers of history that never yield. Sri Lanka is a living record of all that humanity has experienced and all that nature continues to create. Every corner of the island holds within it the tension between fragility and resilience, a balance that few places on Earth can hold so clearly. The journey around Sri Lanka is waiting, not just to be seen, but to be understood, felt, and remembered. Please continue to explore new heritage routes with us in the next leg.